Hey all, welcome back to the video. In this video, looking at the Hyundai Kona N. And first, let's take a look at the frames used. So I used a background layer, which was a 30-second exposure with no lights. Light painted the side as well as the top. Made sure to get the headlights and an extra one, just the wheels there because the back wheel was a little dark. All right, so to get started, we'll take the background layer and we'll move that down to the bottom. And we'll just go through these top layers, taking a look, see what the exposure are, making sure I'm naming them correctly so I know which ones to work on. And this last one here, so this will be the lights. Let's name this. All right, great. So let's turn them all on. Now the top 4 layers, I'm going to change the blend mode here. And I'll change that to, oops, one sec here. Change it to lighten, which will lighten every layer. So pretty good start so far. Obviously, it's a little overexposed here on the side and a little too much light. So first step, make a selection around the car so I can use this particular mask when I need it. And we'll just speed through this process. What I'm doing, I'm using the pen tool to go over the car of the portion that I'm going to need to mask. And I'll be able to use this selection on each layer that I have. And when I do add the layer mask, if I'm adding some or I'm subtracting some from that layer, I'll be able to recall, because this layer here we're going to create and we're going to save it as a selection. So feather 0.5 should be good. Select, save selection. Let's just call this car. And now we have that if we need it. All right, let's work on one layer at a time here. Start with the top. This is the side of the car. As you can see, I have my selection on there. I'm going to add a mask. Oh, one sec. There we go. So add a mask here, and that's already looking pretty good. Now, it's a little too exposed. I'm going to fix that in a second here. But let's load the selection, and we'll go to the next layer, which is going to be the top. And we'll create a layer mask. Do the same thing. Look good. There, that looks pretty good. Next for the wheels, just on and off so we can take a look at that. Exposure's pretty good. Let's load the selection that I created, the car selection, and add the mask. And I'm not going to want that whole side. I'm really only going to want the wheels. So let's just lower the opacity a little bit here. Make sure the exposure from the side and the top is even. Actually, that looks, no, it's a little too much there. Let's get a brush, get a round brush, and let's paint away this layer, most of it. Reduce the size first. Okay. All right, so let's get rid of, I don't want the side, but I do want the wheels in case I need that. Okay. Change to white so we can reveal and just paint over. No, that's no good. Probably going to create a selection. Let's add the car selection first. We'll paint that away. Now, I only want the wheel itself. I don't want the tire. The tire's kind of coming through a little too much. So I'm going to create a selection and get rid of that. Load the selection once again. Let's just zoom into the wheel here, get a little closer. Let's get rid of this first. And it's pretty good. Let's grab the pen tool and I'll make a selection around the actual wheel portion of this without the tire. That's good. Quick selection, pretty easy. Oh, move this back. Okay, and that's good. Make that selection, feather that a bit, and white, and we'll just paint this in here. There we go, deselect. There, it looks good there. All right, so we can drop the opacity, so we can play around with kind of the amount of light that's coming through on this back wheel by using the opacity slider. The lights, you can see the light, the headlight reflects on the bay door. I don't know if I really like that there. A little distracting. kind of draws the eye to the right. Yeah, I'll probably get rid of that. Okay, so let's add a mask. It's pretty easy. We'll just paint over this to get rid of it. Black. And good. There, so that leaves the headlights and it leaves the tail light as well. I do want the tail light in there because I'm going to add a little color, a little warmth to the rear of the car and in the background as well. So that's good that we have that color because we're going to use that color for the smoke haze layer that we add. All right, that's looking good so far. Now I did clean up the car, probably needs a little bit more, but I didn't really touch the background. So, all right, let's group these layers. We'll add a cleanup layer and we'll start to do this. I'll just speed through this, but the car is exceptionally clean, which is good. The light color makes it a little easier to light paint. And what we'll do is we'll just go through because there's just small blemishes, not really a lot, just a couple in the front here. A little bit of dirt near the wheels and in the wheel wells as well. So just getting rid of those. There, that's looking pretty good. All right, great. So I may do a little cleanup at the end as well and on the background. All right, so I think those exposures are looking pretty good so far. Now the car looks like it's pretty much floating there, so I do want a little light to bleed down. There we go. And that's a little bit more. Let's reduce the size of this brush just to make sure the wheels are actually touching the surface. Of course, make it look like it's blending in a little more than it was. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so that's the cleanup layer, and we're going to add a couple more layers as well. We'll call this smoke. This is going to be the first smoke layer. I'm going to probably use two, one in the front and one in the back. So one on the left and one on the right. Use a smoke brush, and let's sample this color, and I want the taillight color. Zoom out. Okay, so we're just going to stamp a little bit around the back of the car. We're going to fade this quite a bit. Use the Gaussian blur as well. A little more, just near the bottom. Not too much. Okay, so let's start there. All right. Yeah, it's pretty good. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Keep this pretty high. It's over 400. That's probably good. I want just like a hazy kind of feeling that's going to be behind the car. It's already on top, but the good thing is that we have the car selection. I can quickly bring that in. Just stamp that away with a black brush just to make sure the effect is behind the car and not on the car. Now I do want it, I'll probably fix it a little bit just with a slight amount. I have my flow just over 40%, and we'll start at the opacity of 0 and increase this and just take a look at how this looks so far. That's pretty good. Okay. Opacity a little too much. Let's take this down a little bit. Take a look at this. Start at 0 again. Just bring it up. And I just want a little bit. I don't want too much. That's probably pretty good there. Let's add another smoke. Let's call it smoke 2. I'm going to do the same thing with the front, but the color I'm going to use is going to be sampled from the headlight, which is, it's pretty much white anyway. Same brush on a new layer. Sample this here. And a couple stamps. One there. I'm just doing this off frame just so it'll change the size. It's just quicker to do this. Something a little smaller. There we go. Okay, so that's good so far. Let's Gaussian blur this. It's pretty good. Now let's fade it, the opacity, and it's just a bit. It's kind of just giving a little bit of haze from those headlights, just behind the car itself. A little less than that. Okay, that's good so far. Looks pretty good. Let's go back to the cleanup layer. I didn't really touch much what was on the background here. So I'll speed through this again. Just pick it up. I mean, we're in a shop here, so it is somewhat dirty in places, especially on the floor. But just quickly taking out ones that are easy to take out, clean it up just a bit. Still want the feeling of it being in that bay, but when you can clean up small things, probably best if you can clone those out quickly. All right, so again, load the selection of the car. This is near the front. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, wrong brush, round brush. Good size. Size doesn't really matter for this brush here. And just stamp that. And that just allows the haze to be behind the car and only behind the car. Okay, it's looking good. Take this down. Right about there. All right, just now, one more layer. We're going to do a color balance in the shadows, so it's a little too warm. And I'm just using a +2 on the blue of the shadows here to give, I don't know, it was just a little too warm for me. I want to give it a cooler look. Okay, play around. So now I just want a little bit of it to come onto the car, like bleed over onto the car itself, instead of being completely behind. So I'm just going to add, I'm going to use a brush and add that to the rear of the car, just over that back tail light. A little bit, let's see here. Take the size down, and just on the corner, just so it's just a little bit that it comes up. And it just blends in just a bit better, adding that little effect there. All right, and that's pretty much it. So that's the Hyundai Kona N, a quick walkthrough of how I edited this light painted photo. So see you again in the next video.